We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. The way to the end zone, and Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
So how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.
Hope it didn't take that long again. Go Dawgs.
It's the 100 Sanford podcast. We are back after a week hiatus. It's Lovelace. It's Foss. And
guess who else?
Goodness. It is Trigger Trey in the building. Man, I don't even know what we owe this, his presence. I mean, what's going on, Trey? You there?
Yeah, man. Putting on my headphones and stuff.
Man, Trey been working.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to the show. We know you've been out there doing your thing, putting out edits for TT7, making that blow up, along with regular work responsibilities. We are without our guy, Graham Coffey, who is actually out in LA right now. Graham is credentialed. He'll be covering the national championship game on Monday. But before we go any further, fellas, I think we just got to just take a moment and just recognize our guy, DeMar Hamlin. He's a lot of positive results right now going on. He's squeezing hands, he's able to write. So he wrote down, did we win? They're saying his cognitive abilities have not been lost. Physically, he's trying to bounce back a little bit, but that's a very positive sign because I know his heart. I mean, he was on a lot of hearts during this time period over the last few days. For any of us that watch football, not just the Dogs, but all football. So, big shout out to him, the big homie right there from the Buffalo Bills in my hometown, the Pittsburgh Steelers. But fellas, what's going on? What y'all been up to the last week and a half, I guess? Like I said, a hiatus. I had COVID, so I was out. I couldn't do anything. I apologize for that, and ain't nothing I can do. But what y'all fellas been up to, man?
Man, just can't believe we're going back to back.
Dang, you just gonna throw it out there like that?
Yeah, man, because beginning of the year, everybody said we're going to be the 2019 LSU. Be third in the East, Tennessee win the East. And, we was just going to make a bowl game of New York, NYC bowl game, whatever. We lost our whole defense. They said we weren't going to make it back.
Who's going to make the Yankee Bowl? Is that what you called it, the Yankee Bowl?
Yeah, the Yankee Bowl. Bama fans saying we weren't going to go back. That was our last title. It was just a fluke year.
Facts.
But we back in force. We going back.
Yeah. It's interesting, huh?
Very.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
The Dogs are in the national championship again.
Right.
One more game.
Right. Back to back. First team to do it in college playoff history. Back to back.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, hey, you know how it be. Haters gonna hate, but they better congratulate next Monday.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be all hell broke loose. I'm ready. I got my tweets ready set up.
I think you haven't even been on the show because that's all you be doing, man. Like you're setting up your tweets. You got them time stamped. You got everything ready, man.
Setting up the memes and everything. I'll be ready. I'll be ready for war. I'm ready.
Everything.
I'm ready. I'm
Everything.
ready. I'm on Bama fans' head after Monday. I'm just letting y'all know.
Yo, hold up a second, man, because we got to pay some bills, man. So before we really, really get into it, props out to our new sponsor for the Roll Up Network and the 100 Sanford podcast. We're talking about relaxing, unwinding, and taking a vacay. We're talking about premium Delta 8 products, leaving the mood relaxed and chilled with a light alternative to cannabis. We're talking about Vacay. That's the name of the company. They got the vapes, the edibles, and various flavors that you will like. So use the promo code 100Sanford for 10% off all your Delta 8 THC products, premium products delivered to your mailbox and federally legal. That's right. Go to takeavaycay.com. That's takeavacay.com. Use the promo code 100Sanford for 10% off all your Delta 8 THC products. Fellas,
Yes, sir.
How you feeling, man? Let's wait. Hold up a second, because you done already jumped to Monday. How did you feel about last Saturday?
I ain't gonna lie. I was watching the game when we had won. I ain't gonna lie. I thought it was over. Hey, we weren't
speak your truth. Speak your truth, man.
We weren't looking too good. We were down by 14. The boy moving the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh. I'm talking about. I'm just sitting back, just like I'm just on my phone, just sitting back. I'm like, go on and get prepared to, get ready for this little flame I'm about to get. Next thing I know, it turned for a quarter. Stetson Bennett turned into Tom Brady.
Man, listen. The boy was on the boy because the boy was wilding at first. Well, here's the deal. If you look at Stetson's game stat wise, he had a hell of a game. You know what I mean? But that's why I tell people you can't look at stats all the time. He just had a few moments here and there where he wasn't, tuned in, and it didn't go the way we wanted it to go. You know what I mean? But he ended up playing wonderful when it counted. You know what I mean? And I can appreciate that. I don't know if I was in dire straits like my man Trey. You know what I mean? I'm a hopeless optimist. I always think it's gonna go my way. You know what I mean? Until it don't. So you know what I mean? I tell you when I knew we were gonna win the game, and I'm not saying when I knew we had a chance. I'm saying when I knew we were gonna win a game. When we scored that touchdown to Arian Smith with that much time left, I said, it's a wrap.
Oh, yeah, that momentum
the game is out.
That momentum shift.
That's our game. You know what I mean? There was too much time. Like that touchdown was scored with too much time left. You know what I mean? It was like 9 minutes when we scored that touchdown. I knew the game. I knew the game was ours then.
It was 8:31 on the clock.
Oh yeah,
that's way too much.
And I'm gonna tell you how I knew what the time was on the clock, because I'm a mix between both of y'all. I was like Trey. It got to the third quarter, and I was like, "Dang, it's over. It's over." I'm like you, Trey. Might as well get ready to eat that, right?
Oh, Trey, I was like, "Oh, man."
But let me tell you what happened. My little 8-year-old comes and sits down. He says, "Dad, remember you told me about anything can happen. It's going to take a miracle to happen." We were watching a basketball game. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Watch, you're going to see a miracle." And so then my oldest comes and he sits down. He says, "Dad, I think it's over." I said, "Nah, Landon said all we need is a miracle." I said, "All it takes is one big shot right now." Right after that, boom, that was that shot to Arian. And that's when I knew we was going to win. Somehow, some way, I didn't know how we were going to win, but I knew we were going to win at that point, man. So.
And I knew we were going to have that big drive. Like I tweeted it out. I said this is going to be
the route he ran, though. Can we just talk about the route he ran, the double move he put on the DB?
That was sick. It was sick.
He didn't need nothing. That boy 10-1, 100 meters. It was a wrap.
It was a wrap. So I'm like, you ain't catching him in open field. It's over.
He had to slow down, and they still couldn't catch him.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I was like, man, where's the ball? I was like, where's the ball? Come on, that's what you do.
I'm telling you, he had to slow down to get. I'm like, hey man, we need to get that. You need to throw that a little bit more.
He was open by 23 yards.
Yeah, and so I was like, man, when he was waiting on the ball, I was like, man, they gonna get there and tackle him. But shoot, man, he still outran everybody. That boy fast. That boy a different level of fast. People want to blame it on the DB. That DB wasn't born with the stuff it takes.
Oh no, he was done for the jump. He was done for the jump. Adrian with that double move, it was over.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what was interesting though, to have him back, it adds a whole nother element to the game.
Yes, sir.
To have A.D. Mitchell back, a whole nother element to the game. Even without Ladd being in the game and being healthy, there were so many different options. And I know people talk about Stetson had a bad game, not using air quotes if anybody can't see me. But still, when you look at when they scored, how they scored, they were really efficient on offense. It was only the couple plays that Stetson had made that were out of pocket. But running the football, they were efficient. I mean, you look at Kendall Milton was balling. When Edwards got the rock, he was running off 7 yards, 10 yards a clip. We ain't even going to talk about the blueprint because his game was just phenomenal from the screen and Trey. I can't even believe you're going to throw our boy out there with a little meme about him getting shot on the 7-yard line in the calf muscle. That ain't cool, bro.
My bad, man.
I don't know how.
Don't apologize to us.
I don't know how he did score on that one right there.
And even the announcer announced him at the touchdown at the 20-yard line. He said, "Oh, and the turn buster got him." I was dying.
Yeah, man. It was interesting, man. But when they wanted to throw the ball around, they could throw the ball around. I mean, they kept talking about Brock wasn't targeted. Brock didn't have to be targeted. They were going any which way that they wanted to go with the offense whenever they needed to. The issue, and that's the elephant in the room, was the defense. For probably the third straight game, people keep talking about the LSU game, but you got to go back to Georgia Tech when they really weren't efficient on defense, giving up yards in the air they shouldn't give up. And isn't that Kirby's responsibility? Ain't that Muschamp?
Yeah, but it's different when you got them kids out there, man. When you got them kids out there, sometimes they're going to have those lapses. You know what I mean? I don't know if it could be a true freshman wall or whatever it is, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? But those are youngsters out there that's having to play a lot of snaps, and maybe it don't go the way we go, where you wanted to go. But I tell you this, that defense, no matter what, no matter how you shake it, no matter what the yards given up, that defense has done what it needed to do every game. Every game. Like, they win however they need to win. Like, they made a few plays that might not show up on the stat sheet per se at the end of that game the other day that were key in us winning that game, whether it's keeping that field goal at the distance that it was or, whatever it may be. They got after Stroud that last drive. Got after him. They stopped it. They didn't let them get it many yards on the run in that last set of downs. You know what I mean? They kept them at around what that was a 50-yard field goal.
50-yard field
goal. like a 54 to 55 yarder, and it was on the left hash, and that's hard to kick it from the left hash.
You know what I mean? So they kept, like, they could have easily gave up. Give up some more yards, and maybe would have been an easier kick. But they held on the how they had to, and it ended up leading to a win.
So you stole my thunder.
Got to lock in.
You stole my thunder, Foss, because I was going to talk about the elephant in the room, but when you go back to, and I'm gonna say middle of the third quarter, when they wanted to lock in on, that's when they locked in on defense. You got to go back to when I think it was Bullard came off a corner blitz. It was midway through the third quarter, forcing the punt.
Definitely.
Dawgs come down and score. Then you got the big hit by Bullard again, knocking out Harrison Jr. in the back of the end zone. A clean hit, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. I got a best friend who's an official.
That's a clean hit. They crying about that. They lucky we're not in the early 2000s. Sorry. No disrespect to anybody, but Marvin probably wouldn't have made it to the sideline with playing in the early 2000s. Just gonna keep it above.
Well, let's just say if we had Blue out there.
Oh yeah, he would have been the Hammers. Blue one, even it seemed an old time head, like the chest.
Yeah, they stepped up when they needed to step up, and even Dumas Johnson with the sack midway in the fourth quarter. That was a big play that he had. And he didn't even have that big of a game.
With that pressure on the end, like to force that incompletion, they set up that field goal on the left side, so he wouldn't get anything else.
And you even got to look at some of the decisions that were made midway through that third quarter, because I don't think Dumas Johnson played that much through most of that second half. I mean, he platooned I think a lot with Trez Marshall. He was out there balling. They had a lot of guys. They were rotating a lot of guys. And I think what ended up happening was when you got to that third quarter, for whatever reason, Ohio State, now this is Ohio State's issue. They didn't maintain their tempo because throughout that game, it was hard for us to get our defensive linemen off the field. Their tempo was good. Not only that, we ain't going to get into the officiating. That was just horrible because when you go back and look at all the holding calls, I think our defense was so frustrated they couldn't get off.
They offensive linemen had more tackles than our DBs.
Man, I'm talking about extreme holding.
Did y'all see when CJ Stroud ran on that last play to set up for that field goal? It was
yes.
The dude literally tackled Jalen Carter in the backfield, and one holder was on T.I. So, they missed a lot of holding calls. To me, I don't think the defense played that bad. You really can't do nothing when the D lineman getting hold and CJ Stroud. It wasn't on the scouting report.
And I think it was a case of them having a good scheme, a good blocking scheme for that game. They had a long time to come up with it, and it worked. You know, you're gonna have to do that. You got a team that can pressure you like that. You got to come up with a scheme to block them. And you know, like I even remember you guys. I think Lamar maybe seen it. Like you probably, I'm pretty sure you remember the game because you're a Pittsburgh fan. When Pittsburgh had to come to Denver as the wild card, man, we were 13-3 that year, going into the playoffs, and we was killing everybody with the pressure. And like the Steelers came in to town with a game plan. And that was to block all that pressure we was bringing, and they was doing it. Like they was keeping Hines Ward in blocking. It was masterful the way they put it together just to give Ben time, and he was, they gave him time and he was hitting guys. You know what I mean? That's what happened. That's what happened to the game last Saturday. You know what I mean? They were giving Stroud time. Like nobody, Deion Sanders can't cover that long.
Right.
Like nobody can cover that long. Right. And they had those. They had CJ rolling out. You having our guys having to cover across the field. You know what I mean? All those big long over routes. Like
I know which one you talking about. That one starts. I know exactly what you talking about.
It's not gonna happen. You can't cover that long. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying? Kudos to them. They had a good plan, but, you got to play 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Got to play 60 minutes. It's not over till it's over. And that game literally ended on the last
2 seconds left. Yeah. And you know what's funny? Go back and look at what Schumann was talking about in the locker room. And he was saying he was amping those dudes up. He was like, look, it's going to take 60 minutes, and we're going to fight till 60 minutes is over. And that's what it took. It took 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to ask you this, and both of you guys can answer, but I mean, George, you're going to be the authority on this one. How difficult is it, especially for this type of game, to be prepared after a 21, 22, 23 game or 23-day layoff to play to this magnitude of a level of a game? How much of an impact did that have as well going in?
I don't know.
I mean, because you mentioned Ohio State being prepared. I mean, obviously we're supposed to, but how much of an impact?
Yeah, I don't have an experience with that much of a layoff. I imagine it'll give you some time to get healthy, but also give you some time to get rusty. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I imagine that was part of it. I imagine you had how many games? 13 games to watch of Ohio State, and they came out doing things differently. You know what I mean? And you have to adjust. And it was taking us some time to adjust. You know what I mean? We had never seen Stroud, move that much. Never seen him leave the pocket that much.
Facts.
Dude was averaging about 2 yards a game rushing. Like, it was, they did a whole lot of things differently, and we didn't adjust as fast as we probably should have. You know what I mean? And we didn't have any answers for the protection scheme, and they exploited it. You know what I mean? So, and maybe the timeout had something to do with that. The timeout definitely helped them. come up with their scheme. Sometimes it's just sometimes you just have somebody's number. And then they had our number with their scheme on offense that day. I still think Georgia has a great defense. I still think the defense is great, but sometimes a team has your number and you have to figure out a way to overcome it. And they did.
Yeah. I thought, when Trey was talking about he was going to have to answer to a lot of people, I thought a lot of Georgia fans were going to have to answer to a lot of people because everybody kept saying blow out this and blow out that. It's going to be over by third quarter. I didn't feel that way. I didn't care what happened against Michigan.
I did.
That's a rivalry game.
You can't. It's a rivalry, but you can't shit the bed like that.
No, you can't.
And have your next undefeated opponent, not think that, hey, there's some big chinks in that armor. You know what I mean? See, now
I went back to the LSU game, and I figured that's why I mentioned the whole layoff. And I said to myself, you know what? You got Stroud, who's a bona fide first rounder. He's going to go either number 1, number 2, number 3, and we saw what he can really do when he turns it on. You got probably the best receiving core in all of college football year to year. They just put him out up there at Ohio State. I felt that they would put a lot of pressure on our defense, even without a running game. Now, what I didn't believe was that Stroud was going to be able to run and get outside the pocket. I felt that if we were able to get some pressure on him, that's where the game would slow down. We would have the game under control. But with that officiating, man, and the way that they played, we weren't able to get any pressure. So, that's why going back, we weren't able to give our predictions of the game. My prediction was 37-34. People laughed at me. I said, look, man, it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be tight. I didn't think it was going to be that tight, man. I didn't think I was going to fart whistles, but you know what I mean? It was tough.
I probably would have guessed we won by 2 tubs.
Okay.
I probably would have guessed about 2 tubs. I would have been wrong, but.
And the crazy thing, we left 13 points on the board. That's the crazy thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because there were a lot of, when you go back and you look at that game, the same thing as we get ready to get into TCU, there were a lot of points in the game where the momentum shifted, the momentum changed. Actually, I think the momentum really changed on the first drive where Stetson missed the that handoff to Kenny. Who was it? Was it Kenny Mack that was there when he ran the option route, and then he took it on the fourth. I think it was a third down, and Kenny Mack blasted through the middle, and everybody thought he had the ball, but it was Stetson that had the ball. I thought right there they were moving the football efficiently. I thought that it was going to be a blowout from that point. I said, "Oh boy, we about to see the way we put up points against Oregon." And it kind of set us back a little bit. Then Ohio State comes out, goes straight down the field. And I think that it put us on our heels more than what we wanted to be on our heels. We weren't able to do what we wanted to do. And I even think defensively, we never got into a rhythm of being able to put as much pressure as we wanted to because we were behind the whole game. So that changes your scheme, changes the way you look at things. But you know what? I do like going from last week, going into this week, much shorter. Right, you got 8 days to prepare for the national championship game. You're back in more of a rhythm. You've seen what you need to see. You kind of got the cobwebs knocked out a little bit of rust taken off, and now you can kind of get ready for LA. And I think we have a built-in advantage. We've been there before. Media row, being able to talk the talk, be able to walk the walk. You're the kings of the castle, so to speak, and it's going to be something new for TCU that they haven't been involved with and haven't had to do at this magnitude. What's your early thoughts on TCU?
I don't know a ton about the team, I'll be honest. I've watched here and there. What I can give my opinion based on Georgia, and I don't think Georgia makes the critical mistakes that Michigan made last weekend. So obviously I believe we'll be able to score on them, at will. Michigan was able to score on them, they got beat by Kansas State. We'll be able to score, and we should be able to to stop them. You know what I mean? We just have to lock in. We've seen a 3-3-5 before, so we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes.
That is facts. That is facts. But you know how we do with the 100 Sanford podcast, fellas. We always got a hot guest. This is the hottest that you're going to have because we are getting ready for the national championship game. Foss, you went out there and got another banger, as usual. You got one of the biggest dogs that have ever been a dog to come on to the show. He is, come on, man. I mean, how many accolades we going to give him? First of all, he's a first-round draft pick, tight end, and we know we about to have a whole slew of them after him, but he's a legend. 15-year vet in the NFL, played for 4 different teams, Super Bowl champion, analyst for the SEC network. But more than anything, he's a father of 7 children, a wonderful husband. He does what he does. It's Ben Watson. What's going on, Big Ben?
What's going on, gentlemen? How you doing? Good to see your faces.
Doing all right, man. Thank you for joining us. What's up? You know what I'm saying? People come on here be calling me by my nicknames. You can call me Big Fizzle. Everybody know
What's
I'm
up,
Big
George?
Oh, no, you can call me Fizz. Everybody call me Fizz, man. You know what I'm saying? Big Fizzle in the house. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you joining us, man.
No, man, thanks for the invite.
Hey, man, you big time, man. I saw you on CNN. I see you on ESPN. I see you all over the place, man.
I'm going to tell you what I am, bro. I am tired. And
I believe it.
You know, between tennis practice and literally just ran in here from karate. No, I'm not taking karate, but my son. And then just changed the twins. So if you hear some twins yelling in the background, they're mine.
Listen.
They're screaming bloody murder, but they're okay.
You see them in the vehicle. You know, I'm volleyball practice. You know what I mean? So I understand. I get it. You know, man. But we appreciate you coming on here, man. You're in the college football realm now, man, as an analyst. So I thought it was it was no more perfect a guest that we could have with your college connections and your connections to the Dawgs. I had to see if you can come on, and I'm very appreciative to you and all our guests that able to actually say yes, because I know we all got a lot going on, and I appreciate you coming on. And let's talk some ball, man.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I appreciate what you guys are doing. So thanks for having me. Let's talk.
Big Ben, I got this question immediately because you played at the highest level, just like Foss, the Super Bowl, so to speak. But this is the Super Bowl of college football. What are the nerves like right now for TCU going into a game like this against the Dawgs that have been there before? We just got done talking about it. But what do you think their nerves are from a player standpoint and a staff standpoint, because none of them have been there before like we have?
Yeah. I think that's kind of the question that I think all of us have, like what team is going to show up. And, you know, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. I mean, we think about it when we were playing in the SEC championship or going to the Super Bowl, the nerves are huge. But those nerves usually wear off after the first hit. Anybody you talk to that play football at any level, on any big game or the first game of the season, whatever it is, after the first hit, after the first quarter, you're just playing ball. And quite honestly, tomorrow, I think that TCU should come into this game loose. I mean, this is a team that was picked to finish 7th, I believe, in their conference. Wow. 7th, not in the country, in their conference.
Right.
Wow.
They weren't ranked. Like, first-year coach, Sonny, like there was no expectation on this team, and for them to have the story that they've had and be in the national championship, I wouldn't feel any pressure if I was them. Now, you know, you look on the other side at Georgia, should they feel pressure? I honestly felt they should have felt more pressure playing against Ohio State in the CFP semifinal than they should in this game. Not because of the opponent, because I respect both of these opponents. I think both of them are very good, and we'll get into that. But simply because they have been undefeated the entire season, the expectations started to turn into, will you guys make it to the national championship? And even in talking with some of those guys during SEC, you know, the media day portion that we had last week, everybody on Georgia's team seemed to be fairly loose. Like, so I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of extra nerves other than what's already there for a national championship game, which I know we talked about it, George, which we were 1 win away from that Florida.
1 win.
I don't want to talk about it, but we were just 1 game away. 1 game.
Let me ask you this, though. We talked about it. You just mentioned it a little bit that, both teams, good teams. And I know it's the last game of the season. So if you make it this far, you must be pretty good. I still kind of want to ask, and you've been covering college football this whole season. Is TCU for real though? I know, but I know it sounds like a stupid question. It's like, of course they real. I mean, they're in the national championship. Are they for real, or have they had the perfect storm all season? Like what's the deal? What's the deal with TCU? And are they for real? And why? And if they are, why are they for real?
Yeah, I know what you mean. What you're saying is like, are they? Did they get some lucky bounces? And I would say yes. They had, coming into last week, which was a 1-score game last week against Michigan. They had, I think, 6 games this season that were 1-score games.
Wow.
A lot of those games, they were behind at halftime, actually, and they came back. So this is a team that, and on the flip side, when you looked at Michigan last week, they had won all their games, by larger margins. And so TCU is a team who is, you can call it battle tested or, resilient. They've had to, scratch and claw to get where they are. And I think, you know this as well as I do, that builds a certain sense of character. I mean, you look at the Baylor game when they go down in 2-minute offense and then have a perfect hurricane or hurry up field goal, whatever you want to call it. They executed to perfection and win that game. And so they've had a lot of games like that. Now, are they for real? Let's look at what they do. This is their DNA. It's a big chunk, explosive play offense. Coming into last week, they had 5 receivers that had at least a catch over 50 yards. So they're going to burn you deep. Quentin Johnston is for real. He's possibly the number 1 wide receiver going in, to the draft. Max Duggan, you've seen him. Kendre Miller. I think this kid has about 20 touchdowns almost, 18, 20 touchdowns. So they're a big play offense that gives a lot of people problems. Defensively, however, they've had a lot of holes. And so are they for real? At least 2 out of 3 phases, I will say they are very for real. Special teams has been really good. Offense has been really explosive. Defensively, last week they give up 500-some yards to Michigan. They've got holes there, but no, man, this is a team that I don't think is surprising anybody anymore, other than the fact that the logo on the side of their helmet you just haven't seen in big-time games in a long time. So that's why I think you have this kind of doubt, like, are they just getting lucky? But no, these kids can play, and they're very well coached, and they're very motivated. And quite honestly, I don't think they're dealing with a whole lot of pressure. I think they're dealing with a lot of anticipation because they've proven this year that they should be there.
See,
and they believe they should be there.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you can tell. And that they beat a Michigan team last week who's, we can say what we want to say about Michigan. Their offensive line is always winning that award, which I don't have a vote. But they still beat a Big Ten team that had been to the CFP last year as well as this year, who was the conference champion in the Big Ten. So, they should expect to play well on Monday.
See, I'm glad you kind of brought up Johnson because he is that guy receiver. We all know how Ringo doesn't struggle against tall wide receivers, but he struggled against deep threat receivers. Do you think he can handle Johnson in that area of that game with him being matched up with him like that?
Yeah, I think, I still got a little more to look at on that. But I tell you, I was on the sideline my first time seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. in person. And I'm not saying that these two are the same because, they're both next-level wide receivers. Big, tall, strong. Johnston is 6'4", 215. Marvin Harrison, big, strong frame, like a lot different than his dad was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like mom's genes kicked in. Like he's a different animal. Like good in a different way. And Keely, he's going to draw, the top wide receiver. So can he handle him? Yes, I think he can. Is he going to give up some yards? Yes, I think he will. There was one play in the CFP game against Ohio State where Marvin Harrison caught a slant, I think it was. He's running across the field, and you see Keely chase him down and knock the ball out.
Yeah.
There's going to be some plays like that where he's going to be beat, but he's going to have to come back and make a play. And I even think about the hit that was talked about around the world, the targeting, no targeting. Part of being physical, which is Georgia defense is knocking receivers out. Now not targeting a receiver, not doing anything illegal, not having a bounty. I'm not talking about any of that sort of stuff. But you have to play physical with these types of receivers. And when you do that, you're going to give up some plays. So, I think it remains to be seen. But I know Keely's going to be on him. His game is getting your face, play physical with you, make it up on the back end with his speed if he gets beat, and he's going to give up some plays. That's what good corners do. They give up some plays, but then they'll come back and get you. And
the thing is, his deal is not getting burnt up. His deal is making the play when the ball is there.
Yeah.
So I don't never worry about Keely not being there. You know what I mean? He's a big, fast dude. Like he's not supposed to be as fast as for his size.
So what is he like 215 or he's 220? Because there's been reports saying
he's big.
Oh no, he's a big corner dude. Like when you see him,
my scout buddies when they go to Georgia to do body type, they're like, man, 5 is humongous. Like he's just a big dude. So you don't really see those type of dudes at corner, but it works for us. I don't know what his deal is going to be at the next level. You can't just project them to safety like people like to do because that's a different. That's a different ballgame.
But this is what I expect from him, though, George. I mean, I expect him to make a big play in a big game. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this before the Ohio State game and kind of comparing it to Tennessee. Now, totally different offense, a lot of intricacies there. But, when we were kind of trying to compare the Tennessee game, you remember him making that interception in the end zone, right? Mm-hmm. You remember him at different times giving up yards, but then coming up with some sort of big play. And I'm expecting him to do that. I mean, I think he's earned that reputation that he's going to make some sort of big play because, as you mentioned, he's there, may not play the ball correctly sometimes, but a couple of times he is. And that's why he's a top corner. And, our secondary, it's not just him. You got, Dawgs and you got Christopher Smith and Lassiter and all those other guys that work together. So,
well, Ben, I got to revert back to the last game against Ohio State. Everybody thought Georgia was just going to manhandle Ohio State. I mean, it was everywhere. Only ones who didn't believe that was Ohio State fans. What were your thoughts on that game? And then how confident are you going into the next game that this team can turn it back on? Because we're going back to maybe Georgia Tech, where the defense hasn't looked as spectacular. You got LSU, the defense was kind of, didn't look as spectacular. But the offense has been carrying things a little bit. What's your thoughts going back to that Ohio State game, then moving forward?
First of all, I just want to say I'm happy we won. Because and what's crazy is that I was thinking this the other day. We won the way that Alabama wins all the time. Like it didn't look good for a while. You were down by 14 points. You missed some field goals, and then somehow at the very end of the game, you end up pulling it out, and you move on to the next level. And everybody's sitting there thinking, "How the heck did that happen?" But we kept playing. And, you mentioned the offense. One question I got about the offense is, we play a lot of 12 personnel. And in that game, you lose Darnell Washington. And I don't know how he's going to be. He's got an ankle. I don't know how he's going to be for this game. Even if he's out there, I don't know how effective he is, because 8 days or 9 days for an ankle, depending on how bad it is not good for a guy that's 280 pounds and can run the way he does, right? We play a lot of 12. We play 60% of our snaps are in 12 personnel. I think that's about third best in the entire nation. And so you can't just insert Oscar Delp, although he is a good player and he's going to be a great player. Some things are going to have to change. So offensively, what does that mean? It was great, to answer your question, to see A.D. Mitchell back.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that was huge.
Like, you know, waiting for him to, you know, make plays, and then, you know, to see Arian Smith hit the big one. So, you know, I think offensively, Todd Monken has done a fantastic job. I have ultimate faith that he's going to use the pieces that he has, and he's going to keep TCU off kilter. And that 3-3-5 that TCU has holes in it. I mean, you know, we saw last week with Ohio State that there are plays to be made still offensively. And after the entire game, Stetson Bennett ends up with a similar stat line as C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
Better, too. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, I mean, even at that fourth quarter he had. So my biggest thing, though, is this. What were my gripes about the game? Number one, we missed 2 field goals.
One.
Yeah.
One field goal.
We missed 2.
We missed two.
We missed
one early, and so we missed 2 field goals. We can't do that. We didn't start fast offensively because of the missed field goals. Defensively, we stopped them early. Then we don't take advantage, and we don't score early, and we get in, you know, a 14-point hole for most of that game. Before the second half, we allow them to drive down the field in that which, as an offensive player, George, as an offensive player, the best time to play offense is under 2 minutes because the defense just gives you whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
It's amazing. I don't know what happened to them. So those are a couple things.
They tired, you tired.
Exactly. So start fast, but again, I think the resiliency of this team to pull it out, there was never any doubt for those guys.
Let me bring it back to Big Darnell. I don't know what to think of this. Somebody said they saw him at the Georgia basketball game, walking up and down the steps, no boot, didn't look like he was struggling with anything. Hopefully that's a good sign. I know attending a basketball game isn't a college football game, but you know what I mean? They would have his big butt in the boot if they needed to be. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, you know, so hopefully, you know, 8 days is good enough. They got some powerful stuff around here nowadays. So bring some of that good DMSO back.
That DMSO and that vitamin V.
Ooh, me.
Well, let's ask Ben this because I mean he's the authority in the room on this. How good is this Georgia tight end room? I mean, everybody's got tight ends, and you mentioned Todd Monken doing a phenomenal job of utilizing his tight ends. Obviously, they're 12 personnel. But really, truly, how impactful is Brock Bowers and Big O? How impactful on this level?
You know, it's one thing, and I said this kind of like jokingly, but I'm kind of dead serious. Like, I would be transferring at this point.
Yeah.
if I was there, I'm a competitor. I will fight and, you know, all that good stuff. But sometimes when you look at certain people, you're like, you know what? Hey, I'm going to go somewhere where I can play because these guys are seriously next level. And it's not just from a raw talent because, you know, let's start with Darnell. Last year watching him, obviously all the physical tools times 10. I didn't think he blocked particularly well a lot of times last year, even though he's a big guy.
Right.
This year, however, he's road grading. Like he has an attitude, and we had him on the set, and he said, you know, it's a matter of want to. I wanted to get better at that area, and so I did it, and that's what he did. And so it's not just the talent they have, but the ability and the desire to keep perfecting their craft and to be dominant and to win in everything. Brock, what impressed me about him last year was his maturity in route running. So it's one thing, and this is something I learned later. It's one thing to be really fast. It's another thing to be really strong. It's another thing to understand how to use all that and be open when your quarterback needs you to be open. And to have the patience to come out of routes. You remember, and this isn't a good comparison at all. from an athletic standpoint, because Brock is a much better athlete than the guy I'm about to mention. But you remember Jason Witten?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing about Jason was that he wasn't super fast. He could run fast. He wasn't super fast. but he knew how to come out of breaks at the right time when the quarterback needed him.
Mm-hmm.
His whole career, he's going to be on the Hall of Fame in T-minus 3 years, I guess. He knew how to come downhill. He understood the offense perfectly and how to use his skill set to the best. And that's what I saw from Brock very, very early. I mean, last year. And he has a record, what was it, 13, 14-something touchdowns last year. My only regret for him is that he has to stay another year, honestly.
That's what I said. Mm-hmm. I know, I still keep in touch with my Scout buddies. And I asked somebody after the last year, I was like, am I tripping thinking he would have been a first rounder as a freshman? He was like, no, he was definitely first round.
Yeah.
That's
the only thing I feel bad about.
18, first round at 18 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As a fan, a Georgia fan, I ain't mad, but he shouldn't have to play no more college football.
No.
That's
almost like having somebody who's like in the in medicine at Georgia or in the agriculture department, and they discover some groundbreaking discovery that's going to just revolutionize the whole industry, and you say, you know what, you got to stay in college.
Right.
That don't make no sense, though.
Well, fast forward into this game. They got this weird defense. Everybody calls it weird. The 3-3-5. We saw what Michigan was able to do. Michigan was able to actually move the ball pretty well against TCU. I mean, they just self-inflicted wounds. How does Georgia attack this 3-3-5, or how would you do it, Ben?
Well, I think I mentioned it before. This is what Georgia does well. Georgia does a lot of things well. But this 3-3-5 defense, this whole season gave up a lot of yards on the ground and in the air. I think they averaged 250-some yards in the air, 150 on the ground. Georgia runs the ball very well. Mm-hmm. Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, they're averaging over 5 yards a carry on the run side of it. And so when you look at the last few games of the season, I felt like, and maybe you guys had your own eyes, but I felt like Georgia was preparing themselves to play this type of football that was going to be a tough, run the ball, be patient with it. Last game, they almost got out of it because they got behind. They're down 14 points. Yeah, you can still run the ball, but you want to push the ball down the field a little bit. If I'm Georgia, I see if they can hang with us physically.
Definitely.
I don't think, Ohio State surprised me with their physicality, honestly, on the D-line, O-line. We did pressure C.J. Stroud, but we couldn't get him down as much as I thought we might be able to. But I don't think that TCU, from a physical standpoint, in the trenches is going to be able to hang with us. And so I line on them and I bully them. I make them try to stop the run with 5 DBs and 3 down linemen and 3 linebackers and see if you can stop my running game. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. And if they try to do it, then I open up the pass game.
And the thing about that, I'm confident that if they see fit to do that they'll do it. I hadn't been confident like that before. I'm confident in Kirby winning however he sees fit.
Yeah.
He doesn't get – Georgia doesn't get caught up in being cute. Like those few games where we were up, we were just grinding it out.
That's it.
Grinding it out. We didn't worry about style points, none of that. When we got up, when we saw Tennessee could do nothing with us, we turn around and hand that thing off.
That's it.
And we could have blown Tennessee out the water if we wanted to, but it wasn't about that. It was about getting the dub, getting out of there and going home and moving on to the next one. And that's what I have faith in this team to do. I don't care if we beat TCU 10-7. I couldn't care less.
Me either.
You know what I mean? They're gonna send the same trophy to Athens.
Yeah.
They have a different score on it.
As long as we don't turn the ball over, which Michigan did twice, and flip the score to two pick sixes.
2 pick sixes.
That's a problem. There was some stat that I heard even before the Ohio State game was like, if Georgia doesn't turn the ball over if we're up, if we don't turn the ball over twice, then we almost tried to. But if we don't turn the ball over twice, then we win. I mean, the numbers are crazy. I'll give you another stat. Kirby is 57-1 if Georgia scores more than 30 points.
Ooh.
Wow.
So score points, don't turn the ball over, be physical. That's what we've been doing. That's the recipe. They don't need to change it.
And I got a question for you too. We all know we had a lot of Georgia players left great legacies at UGA. But where do you think Stetson Bennett's legacy, when he's done with UGA, when it's all said and done, where do you think that's at? Is it the Mount Rushmore, top 5? Where do you think his legacy lands at?
I mean, depends on how you define legacy. And I'm not trying to evade the question, but it's always important to define terms, because a lot of times people say this guy, he was the best tight end, he was the best offensive tackle, he was the best DN. Like, what do we mean by that? Like, what are we judging? Well, if you're going to judge championships, and the guys, has been a starter for one SEC championship, a national championship, quite possibly this time next week, 2 national championships. If we're judging it by wins, and you're the quarterback, then I don't think there's anybody else that has that resume. I'm not a historian. I'm not from the state of Georgia, although I'm claiming Georgia. But I don't think any Georgia quarterback has that type of resume. If you look at wins, he's 27 or 28-3, I think, as a starter. He's up there. If you look at stories, what story are they going to make a movie out of? I think it's going to be him. It's probably not going to be the 5-star guy, although it should be, but it's just not going to be. Legacy, and then you look at it from a cultural perspective. Who are kids thinking about now? Who's going to be remembered for what they did? And it was 41 years. I was born in 1980. Like, that was the last time before last year that we won a national championship. And so, what's his legacy? Where does he stand amongst quarterbacks? Look, as far as college goes, he's a Heisman finalist. He's got to be at the very top. I think Aaron Murray said that, like, he's got the greatest legacy as a quarterback for Georgia. As crazy as it sounds, because everybody wants to get rid of this kid when all he does is win.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a number of Georgia quarterbacks talk about it, and they all seem to say he's the guy. You know what I mean? And like, there's nothing else, and like, there's no reason to say he isn't. Like, he's the most unassuming champion probably in college football history. The entire history of college football. Nobody expected. I don't think anybody expected Stetson Bennett to play in college, major college football, as a starter. But he's about to go into his second national championship game, and his favorite to win it. And he's not game managing. Look at these numbers. He had better numbers this year than C.J. Stroud. He possibly, I'm not sure where Bryce falls in. Bryce missed a game. 1 or 2, maybe just one game, maybe.
Yeah.
Was it 2 or was it?
For a while, he had better stats than Bryce too. Like, the kid is putting up the numbers, and he's putting up the wins, and he's gonna have the hardware. Like, it's crazy to see that this has happened in our lifetime. Like, he's like the real Rudy. Like,
I was about to say.
Take that movie, trash it, and make the real
stat.
Rudy. You know what I'm saying? Make real Rudy, like somebody that really played and really won on the highest level.
Yeah.
Like, that it's never happened before.
And then
He's
it's like,
a
okay. And it's like, okay, did he have a generational defense? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a team sport. And so that's what makes these conversations fun, but it also makes them difficult to really have an absolute answer, because there's so many other factors that go into one player being the greatest at their position.
Mhm.
You know, you could be the greatest at, you know, left tackle. You give up no sacks, but
You're a running team.
you run it. Exactly.
You know?
Or, you know, you really were better than the other guy, but they think you slaw just because y'all dropped back 60 times and you gave up 3 sacks, you know? So
Right.
there's a lot that, you know, it's complex. But when I look at Stetson, and you mentioned unassuming, he's unassuming maybe by measurables from
Yes.
high school coming into college.
Mm-hmm.
He's not unassuming, as you mentioned, by performance now. And he's definitely not unassuming by his attitude and how he believes in himself. Like his swag, you want to call it, or his confidence is definitely not unassuming. You know, he'll be running and smirking at somebody like, you can't catch me.
Well, that takes me to my next question, because Eric Ainge came out. You know, obviously he said some things on his show, but this thing has been in my crawl for a long time. We had David Pollack on. We asked him the question. I think he evaded this question. But is there just national hate for Georgia? Because quite frankly, I mean, we've been talking on the show for the longest time. And Foss, I think you were the first one to say it. We're the new Bama. But it seems like the nation doesn't want to anoint Georgia that squad. You're there in the national media. You're the representative. You're up there against all those Florida guys and all them everybody else's. What are your thoughts on that? Is it just national hate, or what is it?
You know, it might sound like I'm evading it too, because I haven't felt that. And I'm not really national. I'm really SEC. And I'm sitting there with, you know, Takeo and Chris and, you know, everybody in the SEC that I'm doing business with respects Georgia, respects the heck out of them. I'm the only one that's like, oh my goodness, okay, come on, guys. And they're like, y'all gonna kill him. Like, I know we are. I know we are. I believe we are. But I'm nervous because I'm a fan and this is my team.
Mm-hmm.
As far as nationally goes, I haven't heard a lot of it. I'm not saying it's not there, but I would be if I was the national media. I'm not anointing anybody the next Bama yet. When you look at what Bama did, I mean, Bama was the last team to go back-to-back, and that was in 2010 and 11 or 11 and 12. It's been over a decade. When you look at the last 10 years, since about 2004 or so, that doesn't compare to having the last few years of success. And so I wouldn't anoint anybody. Somebody tried to say that the other day, and I said, I'm Georgia through and through. Love my school. Love Kirby. Love the guys. I cry when I hear the little bugle and get goosebumps, all that type of stuff. But what Bama did is, and is doing, is what Bama did and is doing. We're doing what we're doing. That stuff isn't comparable. And the reason why I say that, honestly, Lamar, is because I played for a team, the New England Patriots. And there was a lot of national hate for the Patriots.
Yeah, I hate this. I'm a Steeler man, so you
get it. But what we did while I was there, and what they did while I wasn't there, between 2000 and whenever Tom left in 2020, is like a whole nother thing. It takes several iterations of recruiting classes, and in that case, draft classes, to be able to compare that. So as great as Georgia is right now, as great as we're doing, and we're on the cusp of another national championship, and quite honestly, I think, you know, looking at this class, from what I've heard, we're going to be in the mix again for the next several years. Let's just do us, and what Bama did, let's always respect what they did.
And I agree. And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's got to be about wins. Like, you got to put it on the board. Where I think Georgia is similar, or you could call them the next Bama, is the way that they're building it. You know, they haven't put the numbers on the board yet. It's good numbers. This is the third national championship Kirby's been to.
Kirby's been to.
What is year 7? Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How many SEC championships? Is it 5?
They've been
SEC East champions.
They've been, yeah.
I'm talking about been to the game.
Yeah.
5.
You know, like that's pretty doggone good. You know what I mean? But you got to put the numbers on the board at the end of the year. And yes, I would hold reservation to calling them the next, quote, Bama until those numbers are stacked up. But I think they're going about it the absolute right way. If you go down there, you've been down on that field before, them boys look different.
Well, see, I just asked the question.
I played with a lot of NFL guys. I counted them one day. I played with like 60 guys that had at least a year in the NFL at Georgia. That's a ton. I'm pretty sure most guys can't say that.
Yeah.
And yet these dudes look different. They're building this thing how it's supposed to be built, and it's just like the last dynasty, which is Bama. And and we also got to be careful about talking about Bama in the past tense.
Yes.
Here's the deal. I asked that question though because it seems like everybody wants to find excuses for Georgia to possibly lose, and I go back to what Ben said. It reminds you of when Bama just closes out games. You don't even realize how did Bama do that. Now you're looking at it as a Georgia fan. And you're saying, dang, how did Georgia do that? And we talked about it all year. We never really had a doubt at all that this team would lose a game or anything. You just kind of feel it's going to happen. They're going to win somehow, some way. And I can only think that's how a Bama fan has felt for the longest period of time, that they just feel they're always going to pull it out.
They do. But I think that starts at the top too. And, George, you mentioned how we're building it. With Kirby having, played at Georgia, being from Georgia, but spent all that time with Saban. I was reading the story about when he was at Valdosta State, I think, painting the lockers, and him and Muschamp and just his story and what he's learned and how to build a program and how to motivate and how to. There was some quote in there talking about, he wants the team to never think that they're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I do remember, in New England, if I can bring that in, is we never thought we were going to lose. Now, you got number 12, clearly. He's proven himself, that he doesn't let you lose very often. But there was this idea in the huddle, if we're down 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes left, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out how to win. We're going to make them make a mistake, or maybe we make a big play. We're not going to lose. When we lose, it's kind of like a shock. Did that really happen? And you see that with Georgia. Mm-hmm. And part of this last game with Ohio State, you can never underestimate the long-term impact of winning a game like that. Mm-hmm. Like being down to a very good Ohio State football team by 2 touchdowns and to come back. And that's kind of, we started this conversation talking about TCU. That's kind of what you see building with them with all these comeback wins they have. But when you, like Georgia, come back from that sort of a deficit against those types of athletes, because you mentioned how Georgia, Ohio State's got some dudes too.
Yeah, exactly.
You build that sort of confidence that lasts, for generations of players. We just don't think we're going to lose. And that's what you've seen from Bama for so long. Even this year with Bama. Now, they lost a couple games, but they still thought they were going to win. Now, some other problems happened, but they still have that type of mentality.
And you think, and you kind of get that vibe from when you listen to the Monken interviews, people ask him why he's there, why he's staying put. He always goes back to the winning aspect. He said he feels like we're going to win a lot of games, and that's big. That's key for him. You know what I mean? He knows that it's going to be hard for that Georgia team, the way it's being built, to lose a lot of games. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm with you on that. They just know he as a coach, he feels like they're going to win all the games. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when you got that feeling at the top of the food chain, that trickles down, and it's like you said, I'm pretty sure when y'all lost in New England, y'all like, what is going on here?
There's a lot of teams. It's going to be a problem the next game.
There was a lot of teams that thought that. How we lose to New England. But I'm not. That's another question, Ben, off the air. We can't talk about that right now. Trey, I think you had something to say, Trey.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the portal because we know we landed 2 good receivers in the portal. How has it benefited some teams and how has it hurt some teams? Or what's your thoughts on the portal moving forward? Because it's very different now than last year.
Yeah, I love the portal. And the reason why is because I could have got to play a year earlier if we had a portal back in the day. When I transferred from Duke, I had to sit out and watch the guys go out there and beat Tennessee for the first time in 9 years or something in Athens in 2000. I would have loved the portal to be able to play. I think that this is the thing. It's a long time coming, and yes, I think that they just created 2 different windows. They shrunk some windows because it's difficult for coaches to manage a roster when you just don't know if a guy – I get that side of it. There has to be regulations on when players can leave just for planning purposes and just because it is a team sport. That's it is what it is. At the same time, I love the freedom that players have to leave. And, we get – those 2 receivers think about the weapons that whoever's the quarterback next year for Georgia is going to have. It's going to be like, how are you going to get the ball to all those guys? And what Kirby did this year, and y'all correct me on this, we lost a few, but we didn't take any. We didn't take any.
No,
and so Trey, like your question was, who's doing it well? And it's like Georgia recruited so well and developed their players so well, they didn't need to bring anybody in. You look at Alabama, since we were talking about them, they didn't take a whole lot of guys. They took some good players in Jahmyr Gibbs, game-breaking running back. They take Burton from Georgia, from us, and, good player. But when you're trying to replace Mechie and Jamison Williams, that's tough for anybody to fill those shoes in 1 year. And so you see different teams do it well, do it poorly. Look at Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. He had 20-something guys out of the portal, his starting quarterback, running backs. He had so many players. I don't know how he got that all together and was able to have the season they had, at least for the first probably 3/4 of the season, that were good. My thoughts on portal, I like it for the player. I dislike it for the fan in me. But the player, I like the idea of being able to have the freedom to go somewhere where you think you are going to play. Now, there's one small caveat with that is, and I forget the numbers, but there were a number of players last year in the portal who did not get scholarships in other places. And so now you have a situation like when we were in school, George, I think that's when they first started doing like when you could like see what your draft status might be. And so you could say, all right, I'm thinking about entering the NFL draft. What would be my draft grade? And they would give you 2nd round, 3rd round, 1st round, whatever it is to help you make a decision. I would like to see some good advice being given for some players that decide to enter the portal. And they sit there.
Got to be a mix. Got to be a mix of good advice and some patience. By some of these guys. Like it's just, I hate to see guys get stuck in that portal. Like it's so many guys in that portal this year. It's gonna be so many guys stuck in there.
Over 1,000 entered. Over 1,000 into the portal.
And some of these schools ain't gonna take you back. We took a couple guys back. I think Bill wanted to get out of there. We took him back. Was Big Mims. We took him back. But those are high caliber players.
Exactly. You better be a real good player.
You better be a real good player. And if you're a real good player, somebody gonna want you anyway. You know what I mean? So if you can't play at one school, you know what I mean, you might have to drop down a level, you know what I mean, to get you a shot. It depends on if you want to do that.
Yeah. Well, Ben, before we let you get up out of here, we always do this for every guest. We put you on the spot. We about to put you on the spot right now. It's Georgia. It's TCU Monday night. What's your prediction on the game? What's your score? What are you going with?
Well, my prediction on the game is Georgia wins back-to-back, baby. That's my prediction on the game.
No.
You know, hey, it's I tell you, last year, are y'all gonna be there? George, you gonna be there?
I still ain't.
If you still ain't, man, them flights out of Atlanta ain't no joke.
That's what I'm saying. They've been nuts. So you know what I'm saying. I need a friend with a private jet.
Hey, find one for me too, because flying out of Hartsville is gonna be crazy. Last year was a certain feel because it had been so long. And I remember checking into my hotel and in Indianapolis, and my room, I believe, was 2007, number 2007. I think was my room number. And when I checked in, I was like, we're going to win. That was the last time I think we beat Alabama that year. And I was like, we're going to win. I know we're going to win. You're looking for all types of signs. Like, it's been 41 years.
I knew we were gonna win. That's why I bought my tickets and all that stuff. I knew it.
This year, I know we're gonna win for other purposes because I watched this team, and they match up better than anybody that they played against, and I don't think we played our best game, which is scary.
Same. I was saying that. Lamar,
you've been saying it all. You've been saying it every week.
Georgia hadn't peaked.
Has yet to peak.
Like, they might not peak till next year.
They might not.
If we keeping it funky, they might not peak till next year. Next year has a chance to be better as a squad. You know, with the experience the young guys are getting. But carry on, Ben.
So as far as the score goes, you're the first person to ask me that. I think it's going to be a higher scoring affair. I think Georgia scores in the 40s. I think TCU scores in the 30s. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I don't think it's going to be a low scoring deal. Even though that favors us, I think keeping their offense in check. I've just seen too much of TCU to know that they can put up points, but we can too, and their defense is a lot worse than ours is. So,
facts. Well, Ben, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you blessing the 100 Sanford podcast. Before you get up out of here, let the fans
I got one question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, George.
I got one. I always wanted to know this. I played in this game. I'm pretty sure you get asked about this play all the time. It's the greatest hustle play in all of sports. Greatest hustle play of all time. That's objective because ain't but so much field is there, and you ran the whole length of it. So that is objectively the greatest hustle play, at least in football history. When you took off to go chase Champ, I'm screaming, I'm jumping up and down, like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? And when you take off to go chase Champ, did you do that for the hustle in you, or to you was gonna be on? I heard when I got to Cleveland, with Mangini, them, I heard they used to call it hater vision in New England. I don't know all that day after.
Oh
yeah. So I didn't know if you thought you was gonna be on hater vision for not hustling or whatever. When you took off, did you think you had a chance to go catch Champ, or were you just hustling?
Man, when I took off, I was hustling. Because there is a such thing as I don't remember being called hater vision, but basically for those that don't know what you're talking about, Bill we used to call it the low lights tape. So, you got highlights, Bill will put up low lights. And these low lights would be clips from practice, clips from games of guys making mistakes, doing stuff with bad technique, playing what he called bad football, not hustling. And he will cuss you out in front of everybody. You look like an idiot. Like that's what he would do. And so you're right. Nobody wanted to be on that film. But I tell you this, George, do you remember when we played Clemson in Athens?
Yeah.
It might have been my senior year. Maybe you weren't there. You might have been gone.
That was my senior year.
That was your senior year, right? And the running back fumbled the ball, and Clemson picked it up, ran it in about 50 yards for a touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And none of us really chased him. Like, we chased him for 10 yards, And then, the obligatory, I'm going to chase you, but we gave up. And Coach Rick ran us the next day. I don't know if you remember that. He ran us the next day. Fast forward, we played Alabama in Tuscaloosa later on that year, maybe the next year, and somebody got an interception, and I chased the guy all the way down to the 1 yard line, tackled him out of bounds. Come to find out, he ran out of bounds like 30 yards ago, so it was all for naught. But all of us, you turn on the film, all of us chased him. Fast forward to that play in New England, it was muscle memory. Interception, go chase him. Did I think I was going to get him? No. When I found out it was Champ, did I think I was going to get him? Heck no. But I did know that I was going to run as hard as I could, and you never know what's going to happen. So to answer your question, I think it was a combination of all those things, and it was also this. It was late in the game, and I think I might have had like one target, no catches. I was kind of pissed.
You want to make a play?
I didn't want to make a play, dog. like I want to make a play somehow. And as God would have it, I'm more known for a tackle than I am for anything offensive. So God's like, I got jokes for you. Here you go.
Well, Ben, tell the people how they can hear more from you. I mean, obviously you're on the SEC network, and we watch you every week. But what else are you into? What else? Anything you want to promote?
SEC network on the weekends. Follow me at Benjamin S. Watson on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that type of stuff. I do work, for an organization called Human Coalition, and we provide services for pregnant women, and we do state, local, federal legislation supporting women and children. Families. We're based out of Dallas, but we're a nationwide organization called Human Coalition. My wife and I have a podcast called Why or Why Not with the Watsons. We are currently on a podcast hiatus. However, we have several 2 years of content. You can find that on our website, thewatson7.com. We talk about faith, family, parenting, and this challenging journey called marriage. So we talk about all those things on the podcast. I met my wife, Kirsten, actually in Athens at Georgia. So yep. we all go way back.
Nice. Well, I'm going to tune in. Thank you for joining the show. We really appreciate it. There's a lot of people going to want that sweatshirt, even though we're not, putting this on video, but everybody should know what that sweatshirt is. It's that Kirby Smart Georgia football with the Nike logo. Ben, you got to tell us how you got it.
Man, I got it. Is it that hard to get?
Man. It is. There's a fight right now. There's a fight. There's an illegal market right now for that sweatshirt.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I got to wear more often. I got it in Athens, in the equipment room. That's where I got it.
Yeah.
But this was before like he wore it and it really blew up. So when he wore it that day on a press conference, I was like, man, I might have just looked up on some gold. So this sweatshirt is for sale. Contact me. And I
put that on eBay. You get a $1,500. You get $1,500.
Size XL, but it can shrink if you put it in the dryer.
All right, Ben. Thanks. We appreciate you coming on, man. We know you got to get back to those screaming twins, man. So thanks a lot again.
They in the
Come on
now,
in town.
All is quiet on the Watson front.
All right, brother. We appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate you, man.
Easy.
All right, dog. Bye.
All right, fellas, that was Ben Watson. I thought that was a great interview. Some fun, some laughs, some talking about the past, the present, the future.
I might have to take him up on that sweater offer. I need that.
Yeah, man. You can probably get $1,500 right now. $1,500 on eBay right now for that sweatshirt.
I'm telling you.
Woo!
It's a fight for them sweaters right now.
Well, fellas, let's talk about it real quick because we did not really get into our part of it against TCU. Monday night, 7:30 Eastern time, SoFi Stadium. It's the Dawgs versus the Frogs. 13-1 overall for TCU, 9-0 in conference. But like Ben said, they weren't even picked to be high up in the conference, but they just had a great year, right? Lost a rematch game to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, and also the 51-45 winner over Michigan in the college football playoffs. Fellas, I mean, I looked at it. I'm like Ben, and I was going to say the same thing. they're explosive, but they're really truly only explosive if teams allow them to be explosive. And they're so well coached, they take advantage of the mistakes that teams make. Even when you go back in that Michigan game, Quentin Johnson had, I think, maybe 3 catches for like 25 yards. The other catches was the deep post that he caught. It was a 40-something yarder. It was a great play, great protection by the offensive line. But then he had a blown play. I think it was a blown coverage call. He had a 40-yard catch. The other one for 76 yards where there was nobody around. If you don't make the mistakes, which Georgia has been prone to do, and we hope that they do not do this on Monday, if you don't make the mistakes and you keep everything in front of you, it can actually be a pretty long day for Kansas State, for TCU to move the football effectively, because a lot of their plays are these boom or bust plays. I think we have a good day on defense. I think the offense continues to eat. And I think the key to this game is going to be the guys that have done it before. Similar to what he mentioned in terms of Kelee Ringo, but I'm talking Christopher Smith. I'm talking Bullard. I'm talking these guys on that back end that know how to play this game. Any thoughts on that?
I think we have to also we have to shore up tackling the quarterback. Like we let Stroud, like it's different when you're expecting it. So we're gonna be expecting Duggan, to run some. Mm-hmm. And so it's different, but you still got to get him down, even though you're expecting it. Mm-hmm. It was kind of unexpected from Stroud. I get that, but you still have to get him down too. You know what I mean? But they're expecting it from Duggan. So I think it will be more apt to handle it, but we got to make it a priority.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I really think it depends on the running game of TCU. Right now, Kendre Miller is out. As far as we know, he's questionable. I actually put a call into somebody that actually covers the team today. Haven't gotten back to me yet because I want to kind of get some inside skin, some information on that. But if he's not in the game and you got Amari, DeMarcado or DeMarcado?
That's the backup running back, right?
Yeah, it's the backup running back. To me, that's when they put a little bit more pressure with Duggan to run the football. He's not really truly a runner. That's not the style that they want to run. It's just that he has had to, based upon what teams are offering, right? I mean, I think he's got like 460 yards rushing, and I think people go back and they look at this game against Michigan, they look at the game against Kansas State, and they say that's all he does. No, he likes to sit back there and throw the football and get the ball off to his main targets in terms of Johnson and Barber and Davis and that sort of thing. But they've actually utilized Miller a lot. You talk about 17 touchdowns like Ben was talking about, almost close to 20. They like to run the football with him, but it's only been based off of necessity that Duggan has had to do what he's done, because he's slung the ball around, man. We're talking over 3,500 yards passing, 32 touchdowns through the air. I mean, he's gotten the ball off to a lot of different people. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they're really opportunistic. They got the Jim Thorpe winner in Tomlinson. I mean, so they can cover. You got Bud Clark, who's a safety. He's got 5 interceptions, long and rangy. But they are susceptible to a lot of big plays on defense, especially those passes down the seam. They give up a lot. And Michigan attacked that twice or 3 times downfield this past game. So it's going to so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting game. Horton, 10.5 sacks, Winters, 7.5 sacks. They kind of try to get after it a little bit with that 3-3-5. But I'm like Ben, I think they just lean on them. I think they get real physical with TCU. And I think as long as you keep everything underneath, it should be a pretty comfortable game. But that's why they suit up, right? That's why they suit up and play the game.
And the biggest question is, can Mac Duggan literally hit tight window throws? And another question is, does our secondary show up after the game they had against Ohio State with C.J. Stroud getting out the pocket, missing tackle? Mm-hmm. We missing, not covering crossing routes good over the middle. Comeback routes was there for the taking. Do our secondary show up, and does Mac Duggan hit them throws?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it's only a week in between these games.
Exactly. That's what I said, man. I mean, and I think it's one of those things where it's a week between the games. And if you heard Kirby was not excited about this last performance against Ohio State. I'm sure that they hammered these boys all week. They're going to continue to hammer them. Where it's one of those things. I mean, really, you got to go into this game with the thought of, this is my legacy. There's nobody that's ever been, back to back in this new era of college football and the college football playoffs. These guys that are leaving as seniors, these guys that are going to the NFL. They're going to be legends in Georgia as long as they win this game is going back to back. So they got to be tapped in. They got to be ready. But fellas, what is your prediction on this game on Monday? We got Ben's prediction. He says it's going to be high 40s for Georgia, 30s for TCU, but a Georgia victory. I'm going to go Trigger Trey first.
Okay, my thoughts about the game. If Darnell Washington plays this game, I think we do score a lot of points because with Darnell in the game, the middle of the field is going to be open, so we could target that. Michigan did very well because Ronnie Bell, I think, had close to almost 200 yards receiving just off of deep post routes and double moves.
Yeah, he was balling.
Yeah, and if Darnell plays, you gotta respect him in the middle. That leaves a guy that coming back fully healthy. Smith, we seen what he done, and you seen the little post route they did with him. When a linebacker try to come up the field. I don't know why Ohio State did that. But, yeah, we here now. So, I think it'd be high scoring. And then I think if Kirby slow it down, if the run game working, he just going to ground and pound the whole game. Whatever broke, don't fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Give us a score prediction. Don't be trying to tiptoe through the whole.
I give it I just don't trust Matt Duggan to hit some like tight window throws. So I give it like 17-35.
35-17 Georgia. Big Foss, what you got?
I say 42-21.
42-21.
Dawgs.
I contacted Graham Coffey. He said he didn't do enough investigation so far, but all he said was all dogs. You know how Graham is. He got to get real technical with the stats. I'm going to go 41-26. I just think the Dogs are going to control this game from the onset of the game. Though, it's that's the reason why they play the game, right? They're there for a reason. They're going to suit up. They're going to play their hearts out as well, but it's going to be Dogs in the victory. I'm going to go 41-26 in this game. And bring home another natty back to back. But fellas, before we get out of here, anybody want to address anything else? Any other elephants in the room?
Go Dogs. We need back to back, and we're gonna be menaces on Twitter all year. Y'all should have beat us this year, because next year
it's gonna get even crazy.
It's gonna be real spooky. It's gonna get real nasty. So y'all had y'all chance to beat us this year. We coming for it all. This year and next year.
Trey, I would be remiss but to say this on the recruiting notes. Raymond Cottrell this past week flipped to Texas A&M. That was something was probably expected anyway. Bringing in the 2 transfer wide receivers in the receiver class that we did bring in, and also this Saturday you got Peyton Woodyard, who's projected for UGA. He's the 4-star, really 5-star safety out of California. Looking for him to actually commit this weekend, but we shall see. That's the reason why they play the game. It's the reason why you recruit. Right. It's the reason why you kind of get things set up the way you get them set up. But be on the lookout for that. But I think on that note, that's about it.
Yes, sir.
As always, see you at 100 Sanford. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Thank you for listening to the 100 Sanford podcast. Tune in weekly to hear fresh content from the 100 Sanford podcast every Thursday, but also with some pop-up shows every now and then as news breaks. You can also follow the content on our website, www.100sanfordpodcast.com, and email us at dogs@100sanfordpodcast.com. Lastly, reach out to us on social media streams. For Twitter, it's @100Sanford, but on IG, TikTok, Facebook, and other accounts, it's 100 Sanford Podcast. All right, folks, that's it. And as usual, see you at 100 Sanford.